I'll never figure out this system 100%. I swear it changes every day despite it having macros and presets set up to start up like a car ignition basically. Yet every time something's slightly different about when I come up. Unbelievable, uncanny. Anyway, welcome to Start Building Me, my daily concept to help you form a habit, a healthy habit, not a healthy habit as in it's healthy for you, a healthy habit as in a habit that you actually want to do and feel good about doing, instead of the attitude that people have when, oh, I've got to exercise, as if it's a chore. It's just something that's been ingrained into your brain that way, folks. And I put it to you that if you just scale back what you think about exercise, and let's try and adjust that neuroplasticity to make you enjoy exercise instead of see it as a chore. So over the course of your life, you know, I put it to everyone that the fitness industry has been so toxic in making people think, you know, that they have to compete with, you know, Victoria's Secret models and Calvin Klein underwear models and athletes and stuff like that. It's ridiculous, folks. All you're trying to do is compete against yourself. Yesterday, so an increased performance, trend over time. Oh, let's see. There we go. That's how you want to see it. A trend over time is what we're doing. So you're competing against yourself in your performance yesterday. No more, no less. And there's a really good way to do that, folks. So I'll always tell people to walk. Walking is a really underrated exercise. It's very low impact, which means that you can do it, and it's a very low barrier to entry. So, you know, unless you're disabled and you're in a wheelchair, but hey, maybe you can, you know, get some momentum with your arms in a wheelchair. I know I could when I was injured from a dirt bike injury, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you can too. Jazz in the house, good to see you. I've got my clock on. Car build's been going good. I watched 5 and 6 of Andor, and I'm coming around to it. It's definitely the better show out of all of them, so I'm going to keep on watching that, which is good. Kicking some goals in the car, short throw shifter, doing some electronics today, changed the oil, everything is going well, got too much sun. What else is new there? So let's get some squats underway, folks. Just watch for a second, as we say, look at what I'm doing, and there's the unconscious incompetence way to doing it through to the conscious competence. So unconscious competence is you have no idea what I'm doing and you just look and it's like you're sitting down on a chair and standing back up. Sitting on a chair and standing back up. Now, what are we doing? We're pumping the biggest set of muscles in our body, which means that it's going to get our heart rate up. By getting our heart rate up, in turn, it raises our blood pressure, and it means that our body has to reoxygenate that blood. The longer we do it, over a minute or two, it starts becoming cardiovascular exercise. By becoming cardiovascular exercise, that is the aim of the game. Benny in the house, good to see you. It's 10 o'clock in the morning UK time. Ben the drummer and Jazz the shredder. Isn't it funny? Musicians, the dedicated few. I like it a lot. Now, as always, Ben, if your legs have been pounded like a, let me see, I've got to keep this PG, so I can't say anything that I normally say. Getting pounded. Don't worry. As I always say to everybody, the work rate is your own. So I might be going at it like at a bull at a gate, like showing you sort of some weird cadence. It means nothing to anybody else. Everybody's got to figure out what their cadence is. So it could be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, etc., etc. It could be 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Have a nice waltz going there, folks. But you can also do, look at me, 112 BPM. Do it from the front, different angles, sitting back into your heels as always, folks. Looking out, have your arms out as a counterbalance. hopefully my weight was going to the outside of the feet. Follow what I say, not what I do. And take a load off. Shake your legs out. Think about what you're going to do later. PCR testing. That was awesome. Did miniature sequencing in a yurt in the desert. That blows my mind, man. That's seriously something for me to look into more and more. It makes computer science seem kind of boring, but like you said, everything's computer science these days and it all goes hand in hand. I was explaining to Ben that I want to use CRISPR to develop, I said Alsatians without hip dysplasia, but really I want to have one of those, whatever those Ural Mountains Mastiffs mixed with a pit bull mixed with a German Shepherd, a super hellhound. That's the reality of it. Like I said, you're going to have to come to my property with the SMS to disarm the improvised explosive devices, and then to get past the army of the gargantuan hellhounds. I'll give you guys a frequency. It'll be like the Legends of Zelda, where you have to play a melody to disarm the dogs. Anyway, I'm just joking, folks, of course. So, if your legs are sore from yesterday, that's a good thing, folks. It means you're doing something. And what's the best way to get rid of injury? Active recovery. Yeah. Big man. Not figuratively, because it's never literally. I was like the biggest person in the computer science school at University of Sydney. Look at that big white guy. He is the biggest local elf in computer science. They were right. Anyway, get some squats out. I'm going to get my heart rate up to prove a point. And of course, don't have to match this, folks. I'm just trying to grease the groove, as Ben pointed out to me, the terminology that we used to say, that you can really get through that range of motion, really drill in the compound movement, and it will make you be able to do it a lot easier. Just really making it a reflex, making it a crystallized memory. Both of you would have studied a little bit of psychology. Actually, I'm not sure, but I think Ben was pure sciences, but I know Jared definitely did psychology. It's just that crystallized psychology, that crystallized memory, rather, 120 BPM at the moment. You're just doing something, so in the end you get to that unconscious competence where you're not even thinking about it, but you're doing it right. And there's so many things that you're factoring out. It's like, okay, my toes are digging into the ground, my big toes are lined up on an imaginary line. The weight is going to the outside of my feet. I'm sitting back into my heels. My weight's coming down straight. And if my back starts to lean too much forward, as mine often does, take a wider stance. Have a box under your butt, a milk crate, a seat, anything, and breathe in. Try and keep your back straight. Again, I'm never going to be a form stickler. Leave that to the power lifters and Olympic lifters and people who make no progress if they, overthink about what they're doing and then never actually do it. And the beauty is if you're supplementing this with walking, they go hand in hand, because it increases your core strength, improves your cardiovascular exercise, strengthens your glutes, your hamstrings, your quadriceps, your lower back, your core, everything that's going to help you walk anyway, right? Everything, as I was explaining to Ben last night, so we've got the X and the Y axes, and then we've got the Z axes. It's the last sort of dimension that most people are not comfortable in. It's something that you get really good in jiu-jitsu, is going down, or wrestling, going down for single leg takedowns, and being in that low crouch position. Surfing as well is another good one, where you've got to be comfortable getting low. And it will just open up, that dimension. It's like when you go and play the new Time Crisis or something, or equivalent games, you're going to be playing and you've got to get low, you've got to get cover behind stuff. You know, even with Beat Saber, a virtual reality game that I play, I'm not sure if you know this one, Ben, it's cool. You've got a left and a right, like it's like a stick, right? A controller, and you've got a camera on the TV that's looking back at you, and you've got blocks coming at you, and Beat Saber, because it's in the beat of the music, so it'll be drum and bass or techno, boonga, 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 chicom, boonga, chicom, boonga, chicom, and the blocks are coming at you like that, and you hit, like they have arrows on the blocks where they want you to hit them in which direction, and you hit them with the beat of the music, right? So if you get into the groove of it, and you like you would be drumming and you're counting the beat, you improve the blocks that you're smashing with these sabers by doing it in time, right? And it's the same, like a wall will come at you and you'll have to step aside or you'll have to duck and get away with it whilst it's just that added dimension to a game that just makes you, it's situational awareness, right? It's not just going to the gym and running on a treadmill. It's why walking's so good when you're doing it as well. You can be thinking about work. You can think about work. You can meditate when you're walking. You can just take in your surroundings whilst you're breathing. You can do more things at once. And it's the same with squatting. There's going to be a whole bunch of other things that you've got to do at the same time to perfect that squat. But even for the absolute beginners, the start building me's, all you have to do is the unconscious incompetence, which is sitting down on a chair, sitting back up, sitting down on a chair, standing back up, sitting down on a chair, standing back up. It's that simple, and do whatever you've got. The numbers are arbitrary, just like the weights that you're doing are all arbitrary. It's all relative to you and no one else. Like a bodybuilder doesn't go, hey, oh, you're only curling that. It's like how much, what their volume is, i.e. their intensity times their sets times their individual repetitions within those sets. You can make anything work, right? So what I'm just trying to get people to do is just put the allotted time in that they're coming here, step aside from work for a second, zone out, listen to the soothing harmonics of my voice. That's not nasally and doesn't still sound high pitched as a 40-year-old. Oh, Keith, somebody's coming. And get your heart rate up. So mine's still at 109. I've had a killer day today. I've run 12 kilometers. I've done a whole bunch of chin-ups outside. I walked the neighbor's dogs. I walked my dogs. I was working on the Beetle and rejetting the carburetor, so driving around and getting underneath the car and having to look at the spark plugs and stuff, so I'm pretty knackered. So as you see, the more knackered I get, the more loose I get, and the more crazy I talk, and you know, that's hard to compete with because I'm pretty crazy as it is. You know, Crazy Dave isn't an ironic nickname, folks, not like Fat Steve is actually skinny. Crazy Dave, well, you know, I'm not going to argue with that one. Anyway, what would I care? There's a psychiatrist that I see once said, exactly right, my man. A psychiatrist once told me that conformists in society generally don't achieve anything, right? And I thought, yeah, that's pretty cool. He's like, if you were normal and you toe the line, then you're not going to do anything outside the box, are you? But I know both of you guys, for instance, and pretty much all my friends, right? It's just like they do what they think is right, not what they think other people want them to do, for better or worse, but mostly for better that comes out with it. So you got to do what you think's right. And hey, I know this is right. I know this is right. Using my time to get people out to pump some blood around their body to improve their lives in so many ways that, as I use the example, if you typed into Google, why is it important to exercise? A fist is going to come out of the computer and punch you in the face and say, you stupid. Do you really need to know the answer to this question? Do I need to exercise to be healthy? It's like, yeah, you do. There's no ways around it. You can't just eat well and sleep well and drink water and not do drugs. It doesn't work that way, folks. In fact, The opposite is true. You can exercise, eat garbage, don't sleep well, and take drugs and drink alcohol, and you're better off for it. It's this pump, like we're a set of filters, folks, and you've got to increase the blood pressure to pump through those filters frequently to make it worse. Now, they say there's a link between high blood pressure and dementia, but I think that's, a little bit different. You can't sort of extrapolate from that it's because of exercise, right? It's usually because of constricted arteries and blood vessels from coronary artery plaque and people drinking too much and sedentary lifestyle that would cause people to get dementia as a result of that. So, you don't want to have your blood pressure ramped up all the time like a powerlifter or a bodybuilder. But as I said, it's that beautiful sinusoidal wave that we have in life, the ebb and the flows of life. You want your heart rate to go up, you want your heart rate to go down, folks. It's that simple. And look, already 15 minutes in, Thursday, let's bust out a few more and then get back to it, folks. Oh yeah, I played a game of Counter-Strike today, that was cool. Watched Andor Star Wars last night, that was cool. What am I going to do tonight? Drink fruit iced tea and sloth out with the hounds, probably. I've been reading a book at the moment about rebuilding Beetles for performance, so reinforcing the floor pan and chassis so it doesn't twist from the torque when you go up from 40 horsepower to 500 horsepower, as I'm putting an EJ25 Subaru STI engine in my second stage build. I'm not sure exactly how much torque that has, but I'm guessing 250 to 300 foot-pounds of torque on something that has a fraction of that. So you want to put stabilized struts, you want to weld in support beams, cross beams on the floor pan and chassis, and obviously attach a roll cage to it which will stop it twisting or reduce the twisting as well. Dynamat to stop the noise from the turbos blowing your eardrums out when the when the valves go off. So interesting books. Anyway, as always, I digress. So I'm going to punish myself by doing 10 squats. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Again, if you did 2 in that time, that's cool. As I always say as well, folks, this is the bare minimum, but this bare minimum, if this is the only exercise you do, this is an awesome routine to do. It's just like, after I come back from the run, I sit in my ice bath for 10 minutes whilst doing Sam Harris's daily meditation on his Waking Up app, which I absolutely love. Shout out to Sam Harris. Your voice makes me calm as a Hindu cow while sitting in 1 Celsius degree water. Like, Sam Harris is a man. If you don't have Sam Harris's Waking Up app, check it out for free initially. You can even email him and say, hey, yo, I'm broke. Give it to me for nothing, and he'll actually let you use it. So you don't have to pay anything. You just have to grovel. I pay for it. It's good for me because I've seen Sam Harris talk a few times live, and I've done a few guided meditations with him live, and like I said, his voice and his understanding of how to convey the concept of meditation for me, which is something that I've been doing for a long time, as my mum used to be part of the local Western Buddhist Centre in Sydney, and in between boxing and computer programming, me and my business partner used to go and meditate. And what meditation does is it splits up perfectly one task to the next task. Feels like you've had an 8-hour sleep without feeling groggy after you wake up, right? So meditation is, I would say it's a Start Building Me thing. It will be a Start Building Me thing eventually, because it really is simple. Naval Ravikant, who is, like somebody explained him as the master of obvious concepts or something like that, but nonetheless, I think there's a lot of wisdom in what the dude says, despite being venture capitalist scum. That meditation is almost the art of doing nothing. Like, you're being aware of various sensations, audible, oral, whatever it is that's coming into your mind, and you're focusing on it, absorbing it, and processing it, and then the next thing comes at you and you process it and focus on it, and then the next thing that comes into your senses, and just keep on rolling with that, like taking it on instead of just, being cluttered with all the thoughts, trying to keep focus on it. Obviously there's so many different types of meditation, Freudian slip, meditation practices. I really like the metta bhavana practices that Western Buddhists do. That helped me a lot when I've been in dark times. But I mean, the most elementary form that I've always worked with is the focus on the breath. And this is a surefire way to focus on it, folks, is if you're doing squats, and just say, okay, you're like, I'm going to grease the groove, I'm going to get a good tempo down, I'm going to focus on my breathing. You have to focus on your breathing if you want to maintain a certain amount of repetitions per minute, because if you don't, you'll start building up lactic acid, you'll start getting sore, and you won't be able to continue. So you'll have to maintain that breath. And the more you can control that breath, the more you'll be able to endure. If you don't, you'll start getting that lactic acid buildup and you'll have to stop. The ultimate novice shortcoming, it's the same in boxing, jiu-jitsu. My jiu-jitsu instructor used to always say, like, I've been doing combat sports for ages, and then I got back on the mats from wrestling to start doing Brazilian jiu-jitsu. And he's always like, you're so tense, you're gritting your teeth and gripping too strong. He's like, and you're not breathing, you stop breathing. That's the novice mistake, folks, and that's what everyone does. I'm short of breath now because I can't shut up. But nonetheless, what you're supposed to be focusing on is the breathing. It's the best, the difference between the novice and the master is the person to slow burn the energy that they have. Energy management is professional and competitive sport stuff. The better you are at controlling your breath, the more energy you will have, the more endurance you'll have, the more focus you'll have, the less anxiety you'll get. So just do what you got, have a break. Something gets sore, breathe for a while. Yeah, mate, it's like, I just keep on, the more I talk about it, the more I remember stuff. So it's kind of, at this stage, speaking of the 4 stages of competence, it's sort of conscious incompetence, where I know that I'm going to be fumbling through a lot of the stuff, but the more I talk about it, like Sam Harris, the more focus I'll get and the more structure the lessons will have. I got good, but then I had a hiatus for a year, and I'm just slowly getting back into it now. But in the end, this is just a glorified breathing exercise, folks. It will force you to do it because the legs and the posterior chain muscles that we're exercising require a lot of blood to get pumped around, right? And now look, folks, I'm going to do 1 more minute's worth and then we're done, all right? Go back to work, go shred some metal, and whatever it is that you're going to do, you know what I mean? Like, it should just be a short, sweet session where you get your blood pumping up. It will make you feel like, hey, congratulations, I've done a training session today. It's better than one I did yesterday. It's better than nothing at all. So even if you do nothing else apart from this, be happy with that. As I said, that still puts you in that top 10 percentile. Most people do nothing and they make excuses. Oh, I'm too busy. You're too busy, right? So, like, you know, Draper and Druckenmiller and like all these, like Naval Ravikant and all these multi-billionaire and millionaire traders and business people, athletes, all these people that not only are athletes that play competition, but are venture capitalists and business owners themselves, have the time to exercise, right? It's the worst cope ever to say you're too busy to exercise. It's like, I'm too busy to sleep. It's like, Yeah, right. You know what I mean? Like everybody finds a time to sleep, everybody finds a time to eat, but they can't find 20 minutes to do this. It's like, you got to be kidding, right? And like, okay, just like too little sleep, you can actually die. Not enough food, not enough water, dehydration, you can die. Exercise, it's the slow death, right? Exercise is, if you don't do it, you think you're cool, but then every decade that keeps on going, you're going to be worse and worse and worse. Now, I've had relatives and friends who started dying 50, 40, 60, and the quality of life is what people should be focusing on. Lifespan, which is the metric that everybody takes into consideration, 77.5 or whatever years it is a total useless metric. It's a total scam. It's a healthcare scam to make you think that your life is improving due to how long you live. Quality of life in healthcare for mental health and for neuro surgeons is the only metric that they care about. They don't care how long you live, they care what quality of life survey points you get. So they've figured out a survey where they can accurately sort of ask you questions about how you feel and, you know, whether or not that is a good quality of life or a bad quality of life. Now, like I said, even, you know, 40 is the new 20, so I still feel fine now. Am I going to feel fine if I do nothing at 50? Am I going to feel fine if I don't do anything until 60? Am I going to be having a fetal back? Everything's going to be collapsed. My blood vessels around my heart will be accumulating coronary artery plaque. I'm not trying to freak people out. I'm trying to let them know that they can actually do something about it if they do the bare minimum. The bare minimum, folks, 20 minutes a day. So, on saying that, drop it to the floor and give me 20. Just joking, just do 10 more. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We're done, folks. I love you. Thanks for showing up as always. It's good for me to practice, and the bonus of having mates from around the world come in and shooting the SHIT with me makes it worthwhile every single time. I'll see you tomorrow, guys. Love you. Stay healthy. Pump iron. Live forever. Quality of life. Goddamn right. Night, guys. Have a good one.